The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Back on Access Tech Live, Marc Aflalo in Montreal. I have to say that because Stephen Scott is joining us from CES Unveiled in Amsterdam. CES, of course, Consumer Electronics Show. You know it, in Las Vegas in January, but they do these little events leading up to it so that other companies could showcase their wares. And Stephen spent the entire day today, given the big time difference, going around to different companies, and we're going to showcase them a little bit later on in the show. Don't forget the question of the day, which is about nostalgic tech. We actually have a response here, Stephen, from the Gatzer, who said, I still have my audio cassettes from the 80s and 90s with a basic cassette player. So I'm curious to know what other people come up with. Let us know at Access Tech Live, of course. Stephen, you're standing by with Brian Comiskey, who's the Director of Thematic Programs at the Consumer Technology Association, the company that's behind CES. Tell us what's going on with Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Marc. I'm here with Brian, and Brian, great to have you here on Access Tech Live. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, so tell us why are we in Amsterdam? Tell us about this. Explain to us why CES is here.
Well, first of all, innovation is global. It occurs across the entire world, and AI has been a massive subject of innovation over the years. So this partnership with World Summit AI made complete sense in the sense of being able to tell the story of innovation and how AI will fit into a bunch of different technology trends across the board. And we've been coming to Amsterdam now for 6 years. So we really have just enjoyed so much of the city, and Dutch innovation has been a major part of the show. And so it's just wonderful to be here. This event's a lot of fun. And so happy to be in Amsterdam, and personally for the first time for me. So it's just a lot of excitement.
And we're not going to touch on the fact you're vacationing here straight after, right? Yes, I'm just going to ignore that. We'll move on from that because that is fantastic. And I strongly encourage you to do the canal trips because they are wonderful.
Got one booked.
Look, it seems like we shortchange people if we don't talk about AI these days because everyone's talking about AI. Yeah. But it is a huge theme going forward, especially into 2024. Tell us about the innovations we're going to see in this space.
Of course. And so, AI has been the subject of a ton of excitement this year, rightfully so, because I think ChatGPT has been so innovative because consumers really got a tangibility of AI now, where you put in a query and you get a result. So they're interacting it. But the AI ecosystem is just so much larger. It ranges from chips all the way to robots. So CES is going to be a story showcasing, we're going to have chip makers like NXP Semiconductor, AMD showcasing that innovation, all the way to robotics firms showing how they improve your daily lives. And this is because at its core, artificial intelligence is what we would call a horizontal trend. It means it touches and cuts across every industry vertical. And that's what's powerful. Trends that are horizontal, like AI, sustainability, and accessibility, cut across every single industry. And so you need to track them, and they're going to be transformative for daily living.
Well, it's been interesting in my journey around here today. I've been talking about the fact that accessibility doesn't it? It cuts across everything, but so does AI. That's a really important point. And of course, we're seeing this appear through products like ChatGPT, and that will of course continue to grow. But it's starting to turn into the world of robotics as well. It's coming into these new areas. So it's not just going to be a text chatbot we're having a conversation with in 5 years. It will be an actual thing that is moving around, perhaps even talking back to us.
Exactly. Well, when you think about what's powerful about the tools powering generative AI right now, it's those large language models. And unlike robots in the past, which while incredible, it's input output. You need it to do a certain thing, it will do that output. If it encounters an issue or a challenge, though, it's going to have a hard time adapting. Large language models allow for novel ideation and creation. So if a robot encounters a challenge in the future, it can come up with a solution that's learned from these models over time. And so that's something where, Boston Dynamics has appeared in the past on the show floor. Starness Technology was here today, showcasing how that's going to help logistics and supply chain. And so it's just going to be quite incredible what robotics are going to do for the next few years. Walmart, our keynote speakers, also talking about they want to automate so much of their logistics centers by 2026. And so the focus is going to be naturally, how do you use AI inventory management, but also fulfillment logistics robots.
I did see that as a theme here. There's a lot of companies talking about this, how robotics can be used in logistics, because of course the biggest cost to industry is moving things from A to B, right?
Yeah, right. Well, we live in a global environment, and I think the pandemic was a stark reminder of you can just-in-time inventory systems can be heavily hit by disruption. So if you have the ability of automated solutions and better AI tools tracking it, logistics and supply chain is going to be a major beneficiary of just automation in general.
Yeah. Let's talk about healthcare.
Of course.
Because another huge area going forward at Las Vegas in 2024, but also here in Amsterdam, again, healthcare is a huge area of interest. And interesting because I saw a company, for example, today that can 3D print medicine.
A doser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is that real? Is that a thing? But it is. We're at that stage.
And we've seen breakthroughs in the past. Some of the first approved 3D medicines I know came out into the market in the States a few years ago for approval. So it's natural that you see that diffusion of one area into how does it get to consumer. And the story around healthcare at the end of the day is, and I talked about this on stage, is it's going to be more personalized. So how do you get patients to be focused on not just as one condition in a silo, to treat them systematically? And part of that is remote patient monitoring solutions. So we saw that from some of the companies that were working on remote patient monitoring around COPD.
Yep.
Accessibility, which is not necessarily just, how can you get with limited access? Telehealth and 3D printing will ensure no one's left behind from healthcare, and found it's going to be more intelligent. So AI is going to really benefit digital health. And so like Health Plus AI, who is here on the show floor, they're using AI to predict the risk of infection after surgery, because usually you don't identify a risk of infection. It's not identified until 5 days after surgery. That's a long time to be possibly suffering. So in that case, you're reducing hospitalization rates and, importantly, cost as well. So really personalized, accessible, intelligent is the name of the game in digital health right now.
But actually, it's preventative care as well.
Exactly.
So you mentioned about COPD, because that company was really interesting. It was AIMS, wasn't it? The company that focus on creating this tool that can essentially sense when someone may be about to have an attack.
Yeah.
It's incredible that you can get preventative care and get medical help to you.
And that's the point, right? Because that's about that access to care. I think about, a lot of innovation occurs and for hospitals especially, and a lot of that is in urban areas. But I'm from a state in the United States called New Hampshire. We're smaller and we do have a city, but when you get more rural, it's harder to get that access immediately. So remote patient monitoring, those are the tools that, I live in Washington now, but I think always about technology back in where I'm from. And so I'm like proud to see a lot of innovation that addresses suburban, urban, and rural, because again, it's about access holistically.
Yeah. When I think about CES, or when I think about the Consumer Electronics Show, I always think about flying cars. And I think about the smart home. And every year, it seems like the smart home is getting a little bit smarter. But every year, I feel it moves incrementally. What's happening next year? What is coming down the line in terms of the smart home movement? Because we've heard about the Internet of Things, and we buy a smart bulb, buy a smart plug socket, or whatever it might be. But how is it moving forward? And please don't tell me it's another AI option, is it? Is it AI again?
AI will appear in it, because ultimately, right? AI is going to be everywhere. Well, it's horizontal. It cuts across and improves our lives, especially like if you're, say, using a smart energy management tool, that's not just designed to use AI to follow your preferences, but you can usually have AI help monitor your costs. And a lot of places are facing cost of living, especially energy crises. That's a huge element for AI and smart home to work together in the energy space. But let's take a step back to smart home itself. And I like what you said about incremental. It's one of the best technology examples of how technology as core, while revolutionary at times, is also evolutionary, where it's iterative. You keep building. And with smart home, I think we're going to see further maturing of smart home security systems, energy management solutions, and then how do even smart TVs operate as the center console or smart hub of your entire home. And we saw last year the unveiling of Matter, which was a standardization protocol, because a big thing consumers really want to see is, how do I have a device from one company work better with a device from another company? And building these standards together is going to allow for seamless living that's easier for folks, but also hopefully cheaper too. When it's communicating, you're getting better tool usage out of it. I think the Venetian Expo, where you're going to see a lot of the smart home tech at Vegas this year, is going to be just so much fun, because you always see the iterative, but then you get surprised. Like last year, Bird Buddy was one of the biggest hits. It was a smart bird feeder that had an AI camera that would tell you what type of bird it was that flew to your bird feeder. What is novel about it is it touched on curiosity.
Mhm.
I work in research, so curiosity always is driving me. Every time I see a bird, I go, what's that? Well, that's a tool that tells me the answer. Wonderful.
That's, I think, the most fascinating thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? That we're at a stage where technology is moving on to such a degree that it's allowing us to have such interesting conversations and interesting products as well and projects. Absolutely fascinating. Listen, Brian, thank you so much for coming over.
Of course.
Come back soon.
Please.
Tell us more as, of course, events develop.
Anytime, Stephen, and thank you so much for coming here. And we look forward to getting to Vegas for CES.
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready. Brian Comiskey joining us, of course, to talk all about CES coming in 2024 to Las Vegas. Some really interesting trends.
Get all set for Vegas, Stephen. You'll get it done. Thank you again for doing that. Thank you to Brian. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, of course, the question of the day: what piece of nostalgic tech can you not let go of? And we're going to talk to some of the companies that Stephen had an opportunity to meet during the day today at CES Unveiled in Amsterdam. Stick around.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.